You're listening to a Loot Dummies podcast, lootdummies.com. Hello, everybody. Taylor here. I wanted to do something special this week. We are going to give you a little sneak peek at Book 3 of the Unstable Evolution campaign. Sam is back in the DM seat. We've got all new characters. And I also wanted to let you know that in the month of June, I will be posting our session 0 for book 3 over on our Patreon for our Patreon members. Keep an eye out there for one-shots and other things happening the rest of the year. Have no fear, we are very close to finishing our story arc on the Primal Lands campaign with our lovely guest, Alan. There are probably 2 or 3 more episodes that will resume next week. Thank you again for listening, and we hope you enjoy a sneak peek at Book 3 of our Unstable Evolution campaign in the world of Anturiaeth.
The three of you, y'all's characters, have been summoned to a druid council to the west of Maxim and to the east of the Eclarian Mountains, north of Okerjest. So, y'all went a little bit north of Okerjest. If you keep going north before you reach the Great River, that is where this grove is kind of tucked into the foothills of the Eclarian Mountains. The way that y'all were summoned probably varied between y'all. I think Seth's character was actually figuring out what was going on. So he might have come across another grove that told him about this council and about the summoning. You may have had a bird come and land on your shoulder and tweet it to you, or perhaps the clover one morning had a special message for you. But one way or another, you have been summoned to this council. And over the last few days, everybody would be coming from all over the continent. And so y'all would probably have a little bit of time to reconnect and meet some of the other folks at this council. By the time that it is just past dusk on the eve of the 28th of Frost, it's a special day of the year known as the Ice Moon, which is this mid-winter full moon illuminating everything with a brilliant, crisp blue glow. It is a cold night, but here in this grove, things are warm and lush. There's a good amount of verdant green still around. Things are very mossy and soft and pleasant here. It kind of feels like you're walking around on a padded carpet everywhere you go. There's a great wealth of animals here, all sorts of small birds and rodents, squirrels, that sort of thing. But there's also several large creatures here. As you guys have been acclimating over the last couple days, you've got to feed the great relic sloths that gather just outside the glade that y'all are to have your council in. And at some point, you would have passed by and maybe communed with or tipped a little bit of a nod towards the druid mother. She's known simply as Mother. She is an ancient being. Older than any of y'all, even with some of your elvish ages. She sits perfectly still underneath a large tree with this large cloak draped over her. It's almost as if she has rooted into the ground and become one with the tree that she sits underneath. She never speaks. She doesn't open her eyes. However, she's not lifeless. When you walk by her, a bloom will open as if to say hello on one of the vines that wraps around her shoulder. Or her little blue jay that's often sitting on a branch next to her will give a little tweet of kindness. Mother is Furbolg, which I don't know if y'all remember what a Furbolg is. So they're slightly bovine. They've got little horns and big broad ears that stick off to the sides and a wide face, but they have these gentle, loving, caring eyes. And so that's what Mother is, but this daughter, as she is referred to, that attends to her and, makes sure that she is kept up with and kept well, is also one. And daughter is also quite old, from what you know. She's also older than any of you guys. However, she has a extremely youthful appearance. As the sun sets and everybody gathers around this council, there's a wide mix of creatures. Another Furbolg, there's an orc, there's one creature that's just this strange myconid mushroom creature that floats around, and communicates through sonic waves that you've been able to catch up with. So as you'll gather around for this council, you take a seat in a semicircle around Mother, and Daughter is standing up next to her, and you sit down on the plush moss. Daughter begins to speak. Welcome, everyone, to this council. It is only under grave circumstances that we would pull you away from your important duties across our great land. Mother has asked me to call you all here today that we might discuss what strange transformations are occurring to the beloved animals that call this place home with us. As all of you have experienced, and she kind of scans across, and you can see different levels of anger and frustration and sadness on the other members of the council. These changes weigh heavy on our hearts, and how we, as a full group, might be able to aid them. Now, we would call on those who have had direct experience with what is causing these transformations. Olandor, that you yourself has had direct contact with this, would you mind sharing with us what your encounter was like?
Ollie, or Olandor the Undying, is a 6'5", 258-pound elf who is an incredibly imposing figure with what appears to be a permanent scowl that quickly and easily, effortlessly, if you will, turns into a grin that puts many at ease, including the natural order around him. He is in a beautifully adorned, sparkling clean hide armor that is brown with some green leaves and things of that nature, vines around his arms and legs, barefoot. One half of his hair is shock white, and the other half, split down the middle, is almost an auburn brown. He carries a large spear and a significant sized shield that is in the shape of a leaf, material unknown, that is stained in blood.
Cool.
Olandor is known to most here as the tip of the spear of the druids of the continent. When they are in danger or threatened, they often call on him for his aid in combat. However, they have not seen him in some years, and his whereabouts have been unknown to all. As he steps forward and he speaks, brothers, sisters, mothers, daughters, there's a great and tumultuous evil marching across our lands. I, inflicted by the sorrows of my deeds, have been stuck in a familiar form that you would recognize as me in my great owlbear form. It was at a time where I could feel like I had never been an elf before. Even now I can feel the pain of the feathers that once were coming out of my shoulders and legs and back. As I was traveling across our continent in owlbear form, a great host of animals passed through, and a creature unknown to me struck me with magic that I've never felt, sending me reeling into the forest. I woke up after losing consciousness, I don't know how many days, and found myself back as you know me, as Olandor the Undying, in my elf form. I'm seeking you now to help me seek justice for the natural order.
Murmur kind of goes across the hall, and you see people furrowing brows and getting concerned. A very large male furbolg speaks up. He says, "It is true. I saw this great host traveling across the Northlands. They were led by one who wielded a shining bright orb that transformed everything in its path." Daughter speaks. "And this host, were they setting upon the humans of this land? Or were the humans setting upon them? We've been told that there's been an overreaction to these poor transformed creatures by the humans." And she looks over at a lizard man across from you guys. He speaks up. You guys would recognize him as players as Jack Free.
Oh,
It is true.
Jack Free.
The people of the land that I was meant to protect burned down an entire forest to try to rid themselves of the mutated creatures. In so doing, they drove them into the very walls that they hoped to protect, causing more bloodshed than was ever necessary. Daughter looks around and catches your eye, Taylor. You have returned from your travels as of late. What say ye, Mr. Ohm?
So you see a lizard folk man. He's shorter and thinner than average. He stands only around 5'8" tall and 160 pounds or so. He has dull green scaled skin with yellow ridges under his eyes, accenting his face like cheekbones. His large reptilian mouth is fixed in a permanent, kind smile, and his eyes are white with bright purple irises, which are mesmerizing. He stands hunched over at the shoulders, making him look even smaller and showing his age. He's an old lizard folk, considered to be elderly at 52 years old. He has a ridge of purple scales that run down the middle of his head and continue down his back and his long tail, which pokes out from under his robes. He wears plain tan cloth robes. They're stained, but they're not dirty. He has an orange woven belt tied around his waist to close his robes. He has no visible weapons on him, but he has a leather-bound journal tied with the clasp made of some kind of vine that's almost always held in his left hand, and you see a little pan flute hanging off of his belt. This is Ometrian Grassling, but he's better known to all you guys as Ohm, and he speaks up and says, "Yes, daughter, I was traveling south of the Strait of Recus, all the way down in Saladana. I've been there for a few years now, but it seems like an important time to return."
And word has not reached us that there is any changes occurring there yet. This seems to be restricted to Viltuna for the time, so we appreciate your return to us. We value your counsel. Thank you. An orc lady chimes up from the other side. "Well, we must do something. We can't allow the poor creatures of this land to continue to be transformed in ways that are not natural for them. And I've lost favor with the tribe leaders that no longer listen to my counsel and seek to go to war alongside these creatures, using them both opportunistically and working in tandem with them in some cases, to go to war against the other humanoids of the land." Mother doesn't move, but the leaves and petals in front of her grow up into the form of a heart, and then they harden into wood. Daughter looks down at it and says, "Mother would like to know what the representative from the Mahogany Heart would have to say about all this," and gestures at your character, Joey.
Ivatlia is a older elf. She has sunburnt skin, red. She has long black strands of hair flowing over the front of her ears, and the rest of her hair falls behind. Blue-green eyes. It's kind of a dull blue-green iris. Her features are pretty distinct. She's wearing green robes, kind of billowing as she stands there. She has a leather waistband that covers her midsection. Her staff is made of mahogany wood. Her assistant that works with her, Kuviel, is with her as well. Kuviel usually travels with her on low-risk environments. Ivatlia says, "Well, as you know, I've had several important pieces of art stolen from me many years ago, and that's caused me to keep an eye out, and there are many, many troubling things that I hear from the people and the plants of our great continent. It must be addressed. Something must be done."
At that, Mother, the ground in front of her, the plants kind of move out of the way. Out of the dirt and mud rises up. You can see these little figurines of four-legged beasts and animals, and then a bunch of creatures standing on two legs, standing opposed to that. And then a wall comes up in between them, and the animals crash against it, and then turn and walk away. The scene kind of shifts. The wall and the people move off to one side, and you see the animals walking, and they kind of peel off, and one of them that's walking collapses onto its side and melts back into the earth. Daughter says, Mother's right. The peoples of this land are strong, and none of the changes we have seen as of yet will be any more harm to them than what they cause to one another through war. The true need is for us to care for these animals and tend to them, that they do not suffer any more than they have to.
LOOTdummies.com.